Okay, welcome back everyone to the 430th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 28th, 2022. Well, Mr. Kesh, are you ready to begin the second part here?
Ready, willing, and able, yes.
Okay, well, let's see what we have. We have some questions in the Q&A, and we have a hand up. Maybe we can address the hand up first here, which is Azar.
Good morning, Mr. Kesh. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Kesh, regarding the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, if we bring this to the body, because we take the oxygen and we inhale oxygen, we exhale CO2, and then there were yogis in the past, and there's still some in Himalaya, that they train the body, and that has to do because the breath is the soul itself, because if the soul leaves, the breath stops, which is the God himself. So what they did, and they oxygenate the body in a way that, because the body can only, if you have a body only can handle 5 watts like a light bulb. If you want to bring the soul in place, the amount of energy that can go through the body is trillion of watts, and it can burn the body. So what
Who
they
says
did,
that?
Can I continue? Because
no, when you start on the wrong information, there's no use to carrying on with it. Okay, carry on.
But so because for example, if I die now and you come the next day in the room, you're gonna smell the body start getting rotten because it smells. But then these people, when they oxygenate the body so much, after they died for days, they wouldn't get decay because every cell was so oxygenated, and they could.
That's a different scientific field. You don't allow what we call the creation of order, which is what I call a crystal structure. If you delay it, you don't smell it. This is what happens in your nose. The smell is there, but at a different level when you put oxygen in it. Most of you who had corona, if you went through a severe corona, lost your smell. But you're getting it back very slowly because the neurocells are gradually adjusting to the what we call lower level, natural level of the rest of the body to be able to communicate. But it doesn't mean that you lost it. If you would have introduced a new dimension of fields of crystal structure, you would have had smells of the new dimension. Maybe the smell of Mars, maybe the smell of Jupiter. We don't lose it. The strength changes, and just because we don't smell it, our strength, we think we lost it. They do the same. When you add oxygen to your body, you change the threshold to another level.
Mr. Kesh, when we look at the spine, and then it was extension to take it up to the head, to the soul, and then we have the breath we take in, and we have our heart. So
there are different processes. There are totally processes.
Okay, so my question is, if they, I mean, these people, they could, everything that you talk about, these people could do. They could transmute elements. They can transmute themselves. They can actually. This is not a story. This is the which.
Why should it be a story? No, Sajjan. Why should it be a story? The teaching we do is for most of mankind to reach to that level. These people have already understood. So it's not that something is strange, but maybe they understood part of it. Maybe they understood more than what we teach today.
Because you know what they
The-
did? They play with the breath only.
Of
They
course,
they play with the breath, because if you take because even in
breath
India,
is a natural way of taking food.
so if you control the breath, actually you can
You don't need a
activate.
digestion system.
Yeah, because if you can control it, because you see, this is interesting for me, because this guy, with his hand up, because there was a boy in the school, because this guy can see. First of all, this is actually amazing for me, because when you're born in a physicality, because we have this physicality comes to this planet, and then we have our soul, which is the invisible body, which is the God himself. Okay. So when you go to say you're born, and a lot of people go to astrology, or they go to the, I don't know, the hand with the palm, and they tell them about the future. But in fact, the future, they say, is related to the physical body, which is the truth. But if we go to the different level, which is the soul level, you can manipulate your future. You don't have to have any faith or what they say, the astrologers say your future is going to be. So we act in a physical, but if you go to the soul level.
No. I'm going to stop you there. Go back to the teaching of last week. When you can go to that level, you don't manipulate. Go to the teaching of last week. When I explained to you, it's the same soul. He knows the story the father tells the night before, because it's the same father. He knows where to stop the story and start the story next day, next night for the child, that it fits the story of last night. You understand?
Yeah, but Mr. Cash,
You
for
don't
example,
extend the soul. No, you don't extend. You know, Azajan,
you don't
in
extend the
Farsi,
soul.
you know, in Farsi, how do we start telling a story for the children when they want to go to sleep? And my son, he always says, Papa, can you tell me the story of Yeki Bud, Yeki Nabud? Yeah, because we connect it to what it was and we bring it back because we make the story. When you can connect to your soul, you don't know, because you plan, you are aware of what's going to happen tomorrow or next year and 1,000 years, because you see the whole structure. It's like you today home, you know what food you're going to have for breakfast, what we're going to have for lunch, what we're going to, because you plan it. The food doesn't need breakfast and dinner. But in totality, I would like to be there. And then I go to Jerusalem, I become Christ. And then I go to Mecca, I become Muhammad. Then I go somewhere else, I become somebody else. Because I plan it, I decide. When you are in a frock of a man, it's very easy to change once you understand the soul. It's the easiest thing. You can even stand in front of me and change your image, that I see Azar as a man, Azar as a woman, Azar as a child. Because this is what I want to see. In the world of the man, we take photographs. In this dimension of the soul, we create that reality of the existence. You can do it with breath. You can do it with understanding of the emotion of the soul. You can take from what you need. I can show you a video of the new systems which are manufactured for, what do you call it, release. We have managed to create the emotion of the soul within the systems. And we watch it, we see it. People don't understand, but we know what we have created. But it's you who has to match into it. You go and do a frequency, music, as I said, with the right stereophonic in your head, find a position of your brain, and then find a position of the soul in the same position. I put you in a machine, voila, you want to commit suicide. Now you're a lover, you don't want ever to finish. We when you go to the dimension of the soul, even the breathtaking is, they haven't matured, these people, by taking a breath. There is no oxygen in the space. How are they going to do it in the space? We teach you how to do it in any position in the world of creation. If I take this guy, you say, by taking breath, does these things. I take him to moon. There is no oxygen. He dies. He cannot do the same. But the knowledge you have, the knowledge we teach you to understand the structure of your own creation, you can survive in any position in the universe. You know that song says, every breath you take, every step you take, I'm watching you. It's you who have to watch. Do I need to take a step, or do I need to take that breath? Because my soul can take me anywhere and give me any energy. As I said, the Keshe Foundation technology covers all aspects. These people can do one, maybe two, maybe part of one and two. But to understand the totality, I was explaining this yesterday to somebody. In 2009, 9, I was invited by the head of United Nations in Brussels to go to United Nations office in Brussels. Because, as you know, on my passing, United Nations takes management, not the ownership of the Keshe Foundation of 50%, which this very soon will be transferred to Earth Council and the other 50 to Universal Council. The guy said to me very clearly, he says, in United Nations, in what we understand, we have a problem with you, Mr. Keshe, even though you are giving the management of the running of the Keshe Foundation to us. It's in your constitution, and we understand it. He said, at the moment, somebody in the knowledge of understanding, let's say, one part of the physics fully, or one part of chemistry fully, we have about 10,000, 50,000 people around the world in different cultures. In people who understand the whole of physics, we have maybe 1,500 people around the world today. We use them, we see them, how, and we understand them. In science, where they can connect physics to chemistry, for example, part of it, or maybe some of it, we have about 50 people in that region. We know who they are, we monitor. He said, someone who understands in the world of physics, cosmology, and the other things of the science of the time, and is versed with it, the last one we know was Da Vinci. They come every 500, 700 years. And he said, today you are the one. And we do not know how to handle it. Because you go across the whole knowledge of mankind and universe. That was with me in that meeting. He said, this is the problem, because they couldn't see us, nobody asked, go for a lunch and come back in the afternoon because it's important what we wanted to do. He said, this is a problem. You teach, you talk, you know in physics, in chemistry, in biology, in everything else, and you can connect it and explain it that it can be understood. He said, we get one of you every few hundred years, and you're in front of me. I don't know what to do with it. We do not know Ignite. What are you giving us? Which part of it we're going to develop that doesn't become a cause in another place for war and something else? He says, this is what we have a problem to accept the Keshe Foundation, to manage it, because the knowledge is totality. When you go to somebody in Tibet and you see they might do something, how can they take us across the universe? What are the scientists in Brazil have that we can put to become another part of knowledge? Here we teach you everything. Now you know as much as I know in every aspect of the science. Your knowledge is as level as me, as much as I can transfer to you. And I don't teach you how to change the bread. These people can do. Now you all can do if you understand it. But through your experiences and the what we call preferential understanding, you choose which part suits you. You want to do the Maga, you want to do the soul extension, you want to do the agriculture. And the knowledge is there, but how far can, the knowledge is not anymore to the level of what I can achieve in agriculture. It's not what I can achieve in my soul. I can eat nothing. The game today is what all of us can do without depending on the other and another to not only be satisfied on this planet, on this physicality, but in the others and other places and positions. You're teaching you the knowledge of the universe, not individuality of what could be. When you have it, you use it when you need it. And you don't need to do all of it because it's there. You buy a satur, you buy a sharp, big knife, it's in the kitchen. You don't use it when you want to cut an apple. You use it when you have a big bone or a big piece of meat you want to cut it. It's you who has to decide what knife of knowledge you want to cut, in what portion of it to use. But in general, if you go to the understanding of teaching of the Keshe Foundation for past years, you have chemistry, sometimes it concentrates on agriculture, sometimes it concentrates on medicine, sometimes it concentrates on energy, some now in the soul, now in transportation, and everything else. Nowhere you get such a diversity of knowledge, and because you all heard something in some teaching, you connect it, you use it.
Mr. Keshe, if you listen to somebody's breath, can you tell a lot about that person? You can.
Why do I need? I see the soul. Why should I look at the breath?
But how do you see the soul?
Oh, come and sit next to me.
So I
You
want to
feel
know,
the soul.
how do you see the soul?
We feel the soul, and we test the soul with the physicality. And one of knowledge seekers very recently failed drastically.
What do you mean failed?
It's not there. It's not there.
You mean the soul is not there?
No, the physicality hasn't understood. You know, we say always, we test how hot the fire is if it can melt the gold. Huh? We test the fire with gold. Yeah?
Okay.
Because gold was the first metal man ever managed to melt and manipulate, and that's why it's so precious to us. It's the first, like a first child. And then we see how much gold we can melt the man, and we test the man through that gold. The greed of the man is the failure of them, be it in knowledge, be it in money, be it in the status and the rest of it. When the test comes, it's important. Otherwise, always looks good. I cried for that soul this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Srata, for you and your family for supporting us so radically and so beautifully last week. And
No problem, Mr. Keshe. Anytime.
any other question?
Okay, I'd like to address a question from the Q&A from Brazil through Cristiano. The question from Alexandra, who asks, whenever we are in contact with nature in the countryside, at a waterfall, in those places with many trees, we feel a peace and a greater contact with the Creator. Here in Brazil, we have the Amazon forest, and we know its value and importance for the planet. So the question is, why do we feel so much peace when we are in these places? Is there any function and importance of the vertical beings beyond what we already know? Could you tell us a little more about them, their importance and role here on the planet?
I think, first of all, you have to be in Brazil to understand the beauty of the nature and to understand different strength of the fields of the plants and the nature in there. You don't get the same feeling when you're in jungles of Africa, even it's green and trees and everything else. You don't get that feeling when you are in Central Park in New York, or you go to Hyde Park in London. Still, it's the same. Still, it's green and everything else. I lived and I've been in both dimensions. When you go to Brazil, the green, the color of it, the texture of it, the emotion of it is very different. It's an amazing experience when you walk the jungles of Brazil. You're in a different dimension. You're in a different, what I call, understanding of the nature, and you receive different fields of it. When you walk in Africa, in the jungles, you feel the pain, you feel the suffering, you feel a lot of things in the jungle. Bleeds. The jungle is not what you call is there, but you have a different sense of to it. It's when you go to north of Iran, which is green, by the Caspian Sea, you get a different feeling. But when we moved and we returned back to Brazil, I wanted to feel that this feeling wasn't wrong. It was something not just because of what we had the first time. When you go into the greenery, into the jungle in Brazil, you feel a dimension of giving, where the plants give freely because they receive everything so beautifully. The position of the jungle, the position of the place is amazing. And we are in reception of these jungles. We are in a very different strength in these jungles, in these places. When you walk in the environment of the Brazilian greenery, or what I call, it's an amazing place. It's green is not the same color as the green we know. Environment is not, the colors are not. And it seems that they supply the full spectrum of what our soul needs to expand, our soul needs to reach, to understand, and our soul needs to be part of. And it's amazing what you feel when you walk these, what I call, jungles of Mexico, Brazil. And the understanding of it, the emotion of it is different, because I feel these are, as I said, a spectrum of fields which we lack and we need and we want to receive. When you walk in Brazil. As you can see the pictures, these are photographs taken by us in our 2 visits to Brazil, where we hope that in the future, near future, we'll be the center of the Keshe Foundation in Brazil with the help of our team there. When you see it, it has its different energy levels. It gives you different. When you receive the energy, because they give it to you unconditionally and they take from you unconditionally. The structure of the spectrum of energies is amazing. It's unconditional. So I'm feeling fulfillment.
Mr. Keshe, we're losing your connection there.
Need to have anything else, and you
Hello, Mr. Keshe. It's getting hard to hear. Bandwidth problem there, I think.
and it's the beauty of land. It's the beauty of Can you hear me now?
Barely. It's kind of
Hello?
yeah. Go.
Can
Keep
you
talking.
hear
No, there's some kind of interference there with the bandwidth.
me? Can you hear me now?
It's a little better now. Yeah, I think the sharing might have interfered.
No, it's somehow our main center was tampered with.
Progress.
Connected. We got reached. Okay, no problem. Just one second. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Sorry, we're trying to share with you the beauty of what we call Brazil. In Brazil, the color of the shape, the color of the plants, the shape of the plants are totally different than Africa. Africa looks like taking. Brazil gives, and you feel that giving. Somebody's microphone is open, Rick. I can hear a lot of clicks. And this process of understanding of the fields of the universe, it's important to us. And it's the same. What would you do when you go, instead of seeing physicality of a tree in the universe, and going to a jungle and getting a mixture of physical, what do you call it, field of strengths? What would you do? How would you enjoy them without actually seeing a tree? How would they affect your emotion? How would they affect your soul? How would you affect your physicality? Would some of these conditions in the space, like the jungles of Amazon or jungles of Brazil, brings you to manifest yourself in the dimension of physicality because the joy is so much there. Like a child, you know, you just jump out, you want to be in this area because you enjoy it, you become playful in the playground of the new dimension. In the future, mankind will see and feel these emotions. These feel the strength that we receive. When I go travel around the world, you look at the beauties. I look at what fields I can give and I can receive in that environment. I do it naturally. It's something which I built. I don't listen to the trees as they say what they say. I look at the emotion of the environment, what the tree has created. What does it mean? What does it contribute to the rest of its environment? What condition does it create that other plants would like to manifest themselves in? When you go into a jungle, when you go into an environment, look at the other plants, not just the tree you see, and see what this tree, what this plant has accommodated, environment created for the others to be created in and next to that. Together they show their beauty. Or they can complement each other. When you walk in the fields where is nettles that it can rub and create your hurt and pain, which you might need it as a pain, something it gives you, look for another leaf nearby which you can rub it and take the pain away. These two always grow next to each other. The nature gives you, knowing the man will suffer, has already created the condition, but you just pick the leaf and you walk off. Oh, use this leaf, the pain goes. But you have to understand what the plant has gone through to feel the pain of the man. When he touches it, when he takes his energy from it, nettle is one of the things that we need more than anything else. It has so many cures in it. Queen Mary College in London for years ran a huge nettle department in research and what things they can. It's so important in university allocated a huge department to the understanding of the work of the nettle. But the nature doesn't open a university research that. He feels the emotion of the man. When he touches me, he cries. He creates an environment that another plant nearby is there. I give you to take your pain away when I give you the nourishment you need. This is the way I look at the nature. Not that I go and I feel good in the nature. And it's the same in Brazil. You feel what you call environment gives you and how it does. And this is what it is. And why we feel good, we can go to a park, same trees, don't feel that good, just walk through a park. We can go to another park, there could be one plant, one tree, which is slightly different in this park. It feels so good to go to it. Because that creates that environment that will receive the energies, fields that we need. And when we walk in the park, when we walk in the jungle, we are an antenna. And we are an antenna, we are just given, and they take from us what we don't need. So we feel good because it's like just being fed, but in a different level, in a different spectrum. As I said many times, Brazil is another beauty of creation. Every nation, every part of this planet has its own beauty, but Brazil and its jungles are amazing. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. Salamia has a hand up here. Perhaps she can go next, and then we have some more questions in the Q&A.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Thank you very much, Rick. Mr. Kesh, I had a dream with you and Queen Mary Foundation from Romania. who was a person which is a medical doctor who created this. And for this reason, I sent one email to the foundation and to him. And I'm interested if my dream became reality, and I hope that we will be able to cooperate in the field of health with this foundation, because this foundation is dealing with hospitals and health. And
I have no knowledge of such a communication. It goes in the background with the Keshe Foundation.
yes, I hope.
I don't see this.
Yeah, I will. Maybe I will call this person and I will ask directly. And now I am in direct line with the president of Keshe Association from Romania. And
what is the Keshe Association? Who is that?
Dragoș Ungureanu is a president of Keshe Association from Romania. Is an association who organized your conference in Bucharest.
Yes.
Do you remember? Yes. And Dragoș Ungureanu is a very knowledgeable person and kind.
These things
helps everybody and teach and
these things has to be discussed at your level and the team each other. The Keshe Foundation in Romania is controlled or is headed by Marius. And anything you have or anything in that position, communicate with Marius, and we are aware of what Baba and Naga do, and it's very beautiful what they are doing. But if you want to get anything done between the Keshe Foundation and other ports and universities, you have to go through Marius, which has a direct access to the management of the Keshe Foundation decision making.
Yes, he is in touch with Dragoș.
So but it's I don't get involved. But if there are such a things, Keshe Foundation more or less has in key countries ahead somebody who looks after the affairs of the Keshe Foundation. And so get in touch with them, put them to do it. And if it is something big enough or something that we got to get involved, we get involved. And usually I don't see these things. It's done by head of the Keshe Foundation. Ella and Van Veen handle these kind of things. It's their responsibility and the team in the background.
Yes, thank you very much. He already knows about this. When we used to talk before, I'll inform him 1 year ago.
No, it doesn't matter. Leave it to them. Let them do it. Because we don't get involved. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank
you. Yes, Rick. What's the next question?
How is it, Aziz?
Hello, Rick? Do you have another question?
Yes, Mr. Keshe.
You have another one?
Yeah, it's muted now. We have an image that I'd like to show you first, and the question is from our chat here. Let me just get it up again. It's a bit back in the chat. Let me see here. Oh, I know, it was already in the Q&A. It was from Daniel. He's asking me if I can show this photo. And it's a photo of you, actually, Mr. Keshe. And he sent it in our last reactor workshop. We talked a little bit about it. I think you'll recognize the picture.
No, I know it's somewhere very young. I was much younger.
Well, this was, I think it was the convention or interview or whatever that you did in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven, perhaps. You had a display there. You were showing the everlasting flashlight, and you briefly showed the generator system for the MagRab, basically, or the reactor. This was like the coil system or something that, and you had mentioned you had consulted with an electrical engineer or something to come up with this system to to get the energy from your reactor system. Is the way I understood it, at least. So he's Daniel's asking if you can say something about this.
I cannot remember this picture. I have to see the video section of it.
Yeah, I don't have that handy. This part came up. You showed it for just a split second. I remember seeing the video years ago. I think it was Eindhoven. It was like
In Eindhoven,
a display you did.
Yeah, in Eindhoven, we showed a number of things which are more or less still the backbone of the technology, but people couldn't understand at that time. And Eindhoven was, in a way, that presentation became the backbone of showing the Iranian government's national defense power in space technology the following week. In this, most of you know by now, in this exhibition, we were supposed to show the first flying machine on 26th of November. And Belgians came to the house, 6-7 officers, and they wanted to see on the 25th, on a Friday. They wanted to see my system. I took them out, showed them the car. The guy said, "Do you have a flying license?" And says, "The car stays here." I said, "Well, they dilapidated minded nation. Show us how it flies that we can use it. You don't have a license." And then they took all my nuclear materials. They put it, as I had a safe, as a nuclear physicist, I know how to protect the nuclear material. And they said, "It's illegal to have, but you keep put all your questions, we seal it, instead of confiscating it." This was deliberate damage. And then when we came to Eindhoven, we couldn't show. So very rapidly, we put a lot of things together because the tickets were sold. When we came to the exhibition, the auditorium was half empty. And I said to the organizers, "Why is it empty?" American embassy has bought all the tickets to embarrass you that nobody came. And some of you who were there, you remember it. And then the following Saturday, on the 3rd of December 2011, we showed to show them that you have no knowledge. You, what I call illiterate, dilapidated nation, that you cannot stop a technology, we show its power. And on the 3rd of December, in city of Ghent, in an exhibition, for the first time, we showed the Iranian nuclear-based power reactors. And I said, for what they did to us last week, trying to embarrass us that there's nothing, we'll show the power of this technology very soon to the West. On the 4th of December, less than 12 hours later, we captured the biggest American drone ever, most sophisticated, on the, what you call, Iranian territory, and landed it, and it went public. There was no more embarrassment. They bought 100 and 200, 300 tickets, but brought them such a shame that President Obama said, "Can we have our toys back?" And from that day, Iran has been superior power in plasma technology, nuclear, and everything else. And this exhibition, and what the Belgium did, brought us to show the power of the technology. And even today, they're scared of what is in this level, Iran in development and processing and technology. A lot of hidden technologies was shown. I was so determined to show you cannot stop the knowledge. We showed the box of universe. We showed a lot of things that those who are on top level of science could understand. There is a change, there is something new. And then the following week, because we knew what they were doing on Saturday, 3rd of December, I didn't say anything. There was a conference organized by Peter, who then, because he was the same as me, very radical scientist opening, he was showing how the injections are creating what you call autism in children. The Belgian government took him to the parliament and tried to tell him he's insane and put him in the mental institute. In his auditorium, we showed for the first time the power of the, we showed the first time the Iranian nuclear reactors. Now is in the center of the exhibition, and then you see it freely. And I remember I never told anybody. I just got 200 black bags. We didn't want it to go public how this reactor shows what it is. And I gave it at the beginning. I said to Peter, anybody comes in has to have a carrier black bag. And when they came in, many of you, I know about 100, 150 of them was total auditorium. There were people were standing in the back and everywhere. They carried a black bag with them. I said, any telephone, any camera, anything electronic goes in the black bag in front of you. And the only person who refused to do it was Dirk, because he was reporting to his master, which we kicked out 2 years ago out of the Keshe Foundation, and to his government. And they couldn't say what it was going to be shown. And then we went, I opened the suitcases and we showed for the first time Iranian plasma nuclear-based reactors for space technology. And within 24 hours, we brought shame to the biggest nation in technology. They had the most to spy and they wanted it back as a toy. This picture brings a lot of pain, how much we had to delay and suffer to bring the technology to mankind to be, not to be in a position of wars, not to be in a position, but maybe man wasn't ready in 2011, 2012. But now man is ready. We made sure of it is ready. It's shame to be, but sometimes the soul of mankind is not ready for this to come. But it's ready, it's understanding it. Many, many hidden technologies in space, deeper space technology was shown in Einhorn. It's a beautiful place. It looks like a UFO. And it was booked by a magazine for this fair to be shown. And then the Americans went for them and they tried everything not to be shown, not to be there, and a lot of other things which we have explained before. They came to embarrass us. Within 7 days, embarrassed the whole nation of the United States and the government. How backwards you have no knowledge of. We show it in bucket because that's all we understand. We show it in practice on the airways and the rest. It is interesting. Very, very interesting. We found out a lot in the recent past that how actually the master, the one who was dictating everything to Dirk, was within our house. The boss. And all the text. We saw the same thing right across past 2 years. It's the same boss. They reported to the headquarters. And it's very interesting when you have, as they say in English, a spy in the cap. Thank you very much. These units have a lot of application. Years and years later, they brought it out to be seen, to be done. There's a lot of knowledge in front of you. Even today, you don't see. In a lot of demonstrations inside, but when you go to Linz, there's a lot of things in there which I know what it is. And even the presenters don't understand what is sitting there. But in the future, you will understand. You got to remember something very interesting, is that you have to understand where and what and how to tap into the universal energy. Just because you made it doesn't mean you know what to do with it. And the whole knowledge, the whole science of space technology, in a way, the whole of creation was given to you in 2 or 3 simple structures. Magravit, the C2 box, the immediate gases, the enhancement units, all are the backbone of the whole of the universal understanding of the movement, attraction, supply, division of the fields. When you look at this picture, it blends. It's majestic. It's amazing. But you look at these things here. I look at something which I just talked about to you here. This is where Iran Space Plasma Nuclear Reactor sits. That's the top. Where the back you see it is there. If you go to the left, you will see the what I call the Iranian space reactors. These are made. Material comes from South Korea. Took about 6 months to find a way to weld it in the city of Ghent in Belgium. And this is a replication of the space reactors, a mother and a child. The one on the right creates dynamic rephrasing and reconditioning and repositioning magnetic field. The one on the left, because it's half a sphere, does not allow the change of the fields, but it can allow the change of direction of the motion. In a way, gravitational become magnetic. But in the right one, you get polarity change, and polarity change in space flight is dangerous. So the one on the left is half a sphere, has no possibility of change of polarity, but it has complexity of understanding technology. Then the field force of the plasma create different direction, positive or clockwise and anti-clockwise, descending and ascending, and then you create that condition inside. If you got the picture of the two white ones next to it, those are the Iranian nuclear plasma reactors, which is used for space technology. It's just next to it. It's on the same bridge. When you look at these reactors and you look at the way they are 2 years of my life. It took about 1.5 to 2 years to build this. What is in front of you? It's very complex. It's extremely, I've explained many times before, complicated structure you see from outside. The complexity of it comes in this place. Here, if you look at these rings are in different, both of them have the same, if you look at it. It took us nearly 3 months to be able to make these rings. We pick up information from these rings to know what's the condition of plasma in different layers inside the reactor. And this system here, we could connect to different gases and different combination of gases that we could change the combination of the gas in any level we like. We could change the gas here to create more what we call ionization. Here we could change, and we could create a field of ionization here to pressurize the fields here using one of these, which we could increase the power in and changing the gas inside. It's the same together. We could change the ratio of this layer of the gas and the same this layer of the gas and see this one fly. We change the condition of what we call centralization when you use gases. And this has done a lot. These units are just flying systems, communication system, and a lot of other things. Do you have a picture of the other two reactors on the same bridge?
I don't have a picture of that right here. I'm trying to come up with one of the earlier pictures.
Let me see if I have one and share the video. These reactors have a specific field radiation. The metal reactors do not perform as what we call the plastic reactors, because they absorb different energies. They create different conditions of the flight. And in so many ways, understanding the flight condition is understanding the mixture of not gases, but the fields we create. You look for the ionization, look for gases. I look for what I call interaction of the fields. And these are the other two space reactors from what we call Uranium nuclear plasma reactors for space technology. These are sitting next to the other two. You can see them just on the left. I told you it took us about a year and a half, 2 years to build the first two. This reactor here was built in Iran Sharif Tehran University in 7 days. And the twin was made at the same time. The Iranian government made every effort possible to reach a test ground understanding of the technology. And but it took me a year and a half. It took them 7 days. In 7 days, on Tuesday afternoon, when we achieved the first flight condition, the original reactor, I blew the bottom of it off. It literally in flight, it blew off the bottom. I put the call to the office of Ahmadinejad. I need a new reactor. I've blown the top in flight, it exploded. It was Monday afternoon. Tuesday morning, I was told the specialist would meet you at the office of the research of the presidential office, and you discuss, and we'll see what we can do. 7 days later, tested, delivered 2 reactors. And I remember one of the scientists, big advisor with me, he said, you came here to build this. We knew you want to test the flight of the planetary system, and you built it. Because all our target was this one, but you built this one to show you can do interact and you can fly. And it was more or less on the same table as you see here in the lab in Sharif Tehran University. We changed the gases in this one, and we watched how this one flew. We tried, we changed the direction of what we call the materials, nuclear reactor systems here, and we could decide with that which direction this will fly. These are what we see as backbone of the present science in the space technology. And if you really look at this picture, if you understand what this picture entails, nothing has changed in this. We just elongated to enhancement unit. We shortened the base. Now we extended the dome. And this is your enhancement unit. Nothing else. Principle is the same. Instead of putting nuclear radiation, and the governments can stop us now, we developed the space level fields that nobody can even understand it. Any other question?
Okay, thank you for that background information, Mr. Kesh. We have a question in the chat here from Claudia. 2 questions.
From
One
Brazil.
is, I believe so.
From Brazil? Yeah.
Claudia Friedrich. One question is in relation to a health class where you said that if we did an imaging scan of our cancerous bone nanolayers at the time of birth, maybe our cancellous, not sure what that word is. I pronounce it as
a machine translated system.
Yeah, some our bone nanolayers at the time of birth, we could replicate that during our lifetime, and we could live for thousands of years. Question is, does this kind of technology already exist? Would it be for all bones? And how could we replicate this as adults?
we have passed this knowledge by what I call hugely with teaching of the technology in the dimension of the soul of the physicality and soul of the man. You don't need to do this. You don't need to be ever worried about it if you can overcome it and how you can do it. And you learn from it. You don't need to create these things. You have to understand how you have a much more deeper understanding of the science of creation. So you should be able to get it. Or use temporarily the gases till you create that condition and the flow of it. About early 2010, or that time, 2009, 10, 11, I set out to show the beauty of, or the advantage of, chemotherapy. Many of you have a problem with chemotherapy. Many of you have a lot of side effects. I set out to understand the material, the function of chemotherapy and the rest of it, that it can work, does what it does, and then we don't have the side effects of it. We don't have the problems of it. And to understand this, I bought many animal bones, cow, chicken, lamb, and went to the understanding of it, the structure of it, the understanding of totality of it. Very much like, as you say, Da Vinci used to do a lot of things like that. And it was very clear that how we can use chemotherapy to take the energy from the cancer, but at the same time create a condition that the vast amount of energy which chemo provides does not do the harm. And I developed a patch, what do you call a patch? Like a cover for the upper leg, that we could position the bone marrow, the muscle tissue, the layer over the, what do you call it? The skin over the bone. And we put this into test, and it was amazing. We measured the blood cells, white cells, red cells, and before and after the use of this system, and we could see what a big change it makes. We understood the problem of the chemotherapy. We solved it before it becomes a problem. So the body had a natural process of what you call producing without the problem of chemotherapy. And we tested it with the doctors, and they continuously took data. And it was definitely 100%. And if you heard me many times, I'm one of the advocates of chemotherapy. If it's used the way we see it, and if it's used in conjunction with the technology of the plasma, the way we understand it, it works 100%, not even 99%. Because the immune system of the body takes over instead of the chemistry doing it. There is no chances of the secondary cancer, and there is no chances that the cancer will come back, because the body makes the immune system to match the cancer. And then it becomes like vaccination. People with this process walk a very, very beautiful life. They don't die of cancer. They might die of other things. They die of other things because we've seen them happening. They die of car accident. They die of whatever. But they don't have cancer. Cancer doesn't exist. Understanding, and all goes on that layer, the skin of the bone. That's where the situation has to be handled. And the nano, it's a very nano layer. It's a very, very much, it's an amazing, that the skin of the bone is in a way. And when it tears in breaking, it bleeds, it allows other calcium to come to it. What do you call it? When it cracks, it's so sensitive. When you fracture your bone, the skin gets triggered. But in fact, has other purposes. It has a massive space. It's like a coffee filter. That skin is a nanolayer coffee filter which allows certain type of energies as lymph to cross the bone, and anything which is not needed stays behind it. If you understand this, you can play anything with more or less any disease. And we tested this with doctors in Holland, we tested this with doctors in, what do you call it? In France, doctors in Germany went for it. Single doctors, they just tested. It's a very simple thing. You just wear, you have these knee caps, you wear for knee protection. They call it knee support. It's very much like that. And actually makes the work of the chemotherapy instead of working over 6 weeks, and in 2 weeks you get it. And a lot of technologies in that sense has been built on the back of these experiments with doctors around Europe. Other question?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. Let's see here. Let's go back to our Q&A. So, second question from Brazil, this time from Marco. Hello, Mr. Keshrick and Seekers. The subject is what we call in ancient science the incorporation of spirits into physicality. Here in Brazil, in all cities, towns, and even in the Amazon jungle, there are people who incorporate spirits and use this knowledge for good or evil. The question is, how and when does this permission for souls to interact happen? Thank you for allowing us access to the plasma knowledge.
Spirit is what we call the soul of physicality. And if you understand the fields which create it, if you understand, your microphone is open. If you understand the energy transfers, like the way we're talking about the jungles are present, then you can interact with it, because then you can add to it, you can take from it. And in a way, if you do, you get punished to take from it by your own dimension of your own physicality. This is what I always say. If the people you go to tell you the fortune and how to do things, why always they're the poorest, they live in the most horrible condition? Because they interfere with other people's life. They take from it because they think it's, and if you're so good, why don't you see a fortune teller where the jackpot is what number is for next year to become a millionaire? You don't need to earn $1 here, $2 there. The same as what Azar was saying that people in Tibet can do. Some people have an energy that they become aware of it, that it can interfere with the soul of physical. When all the physical energies come to interact and to balance the body of the man. And so it depends, you want to use it the right way or the wrong way. And Brazil is a good place for it, as you have access to a spectrum of fields due to your environment. And can be done. And somebody call it, they use the voodoo body of the whatever, the pins or whatever. these are all those who ever by accident came across it and use it the right way, they benefit. Those who use it the wrong way, they punish themselves. There's no one there to punish them. And they create these conditions for themselves. Now we know this, what you call a spirit or sort of physicality, which is what your physical body holds together and operates. It's like a frequency. If you know the frequency, you can tap into it, you can always listen to it and add something broadcast on it. So, but your job is not to interfere. Make it available if the soul wants to elevate to use it. And more of your knowledge seekers, as you add to the knowledge, you become one of those in jungles of Amazon, because now you understand it. The same as many of you now understand the process of the creation. We can do what Christ did. Disappear and appear. Now the knowledge is there, we can understand it, we can scientifically explain it. And sometimes your spectrum fits in 2 or 3 or 4 lives, the rest you cannot do. So, but if you got 2 or 3 right, the rest you like. And you become a magician or magic. And I always put myself in these things to understand how these people work. I don't go to listen to them, but a few times, occasions in my life, I really go for it to see how they connect, how they understand what they do, or some of this all fake and lies and the rest. And some people are very, very good at it. I was walking the streets of Rome some time ago, 20 years ago, 1999. 1999. And the guy says, I want to read your, I want to tell you, because I have to tell you what I have to tell you. And he told me a bunch of things, and he gave me a couple of things. He said, use this, you need protection, and things going to change. And he told me a lot of things. I never met the guy. He put a stool on the sidewalk, as you call the American. He said, and I said, nothing, just talk. He knew everything. I was puzzled about my past. I never met a guy, and what the future comes. And a lot of things he told was more or less accurate, and what he predicted was more or less accurate. Because it's amazing how we get to it. I had the same encounter in Toronto in summer. For those of you who live in Toronto, you have these fairs or whatever. We walked to the street, it was hundreds of them sitting, telling tarot cards or what, the fortunes or whatever. And my sister said, let's sit down, we have a good laugh. And that was another amazing experience with this woman who was telling, never met, knew a lot, explained a lot. And she was pretty accurate. And none of it was, oh, you become a fortune. It was very precise to the name, to the place, to the thing, which nobody knew. You can have, if you have a bigger dimension, you can interact with more, and it comes from the teaching of today. If you understand it, you can interact with every single soul across the universe, not just man. If you understand how the universe communicates. As one called it, if you go on the internet, called the horse whisperer. The guy understand the language of the horse, understand the feeling and what they want. So if you're a soul whisperer, you can understand it, but if you understand all of it, is important. And we teach you to understand all of it. And one of the cornerstones of it is detachment. Because if you detach to it, then you lose it. Any other question?
Well, I did find the video with you and the reactors. And also I was sent a link to the facility in Eindhoven, which is, you mentioned, it's a sort of a saucer-shaped place.
It is a beautiful place. It looks like a UFO. And I know this place from childhood, more or less. I've been connected to Philips, and Eindhoven is a home of Philips International. Any other question?
Yes,
There's
we have.
something interesting if you keep on that picture of the Eindhoven. Philips supports a football team in Holland. Many of us know this if you're a football lover. And Philips plays a lot with the lights. They are master of playing with lights. They create all the new light system. They can light up even during the football game. The, what do you call it? Where the ball literally follows into the goal. They can do that. They have that kind of technology available to them. They can light up different environments of the football ground they own, more or less. And they test it. And interesting is, they test the lighting system on the emotion they create in the supporters and the football ground. And there is a big controversy in the background how Philips creates light to create condition for the football players or for the opposition. And all of it comes from this center in Eindhoven in this area. To me, as I always said, Philips is part of my blood. And I follow a lot of their work. We negotiated with Philips into technology development on many aspects, but we couldn't come to an arrangement years and years ago. And it is interesting to see what will come, and if us as a human being would like still to travel with this as a UFO, or you can travel with the dimension of the soul of the man in any dimension in the universe. You don't need to wait thousands of years to get there. Something which might give you some ideas in the background to the knowledge in the future. What happened if you transfer or manage to communicate in the line of the fields of a certain position or a structure in the universe within these flight units? Understanding that you can copy it, make it, will give you an understanding that you can travel the span of universe instantaneously. And this is why I explain many times that what man sees on the star, on the galaxy, somewhere in the universe is what's actually happening instantaneously. If you look in the dimension of the different field strength, or you look at it as NASA does with cameras in the dimension of matter state, then you say the light takes so many light years to come, but you're already seeing light at the time which happens if you have understanding and a vision to see at that strength. And I explained this many times before. When you have a nuclear bomb, you hear the sound before and during and after, depends how, where you are. The same as what you see with the light. One travels faster, the sound is slower, you see the light like a thunder, then the noise comes. Mankind, if it learns to travel on the speed of the light of the universe, will get to the place, even though the position of the place, destination never changed. To confirm the existence, you don't need to wait the sun because you're already seeing the light. And most of us don't understand this, even in a matter state. It's the same. It's the same source of magnetic fields. Depends which one of it you choose to can confirm the existence of. When you see the light of a nuclear bomb, or you wait till the wave of it coming in the physical dimension, or the sound. And this is what our scientists have to understand. The position of the bomb drop hasn't changed. It's us who determines by what we accept as a confirmation to travel to sleep. When you go to Eindhoven, this Eindhoven is one of the beautiful cities of Europe. It's made more beautiful and beautifully done by the Philips International to keep it one of the beautiful cities of the world. When you have the money the way they have, you can do anything you like. Any other question?
We have a few GANs questions here. First one from Dan in the Q&A. If I put a CO2 GANs into a CO2 reactor in the same way as the CH3 reduction to get the tritium GANs, would the remainder be an oxygen GANs?
I don't know how you mix it. One of the ways you know you created the oxygen, look for drops of water around your system. Look at the levels of the water. Well, you know, this is the problem with our knowledge because you're so passive. You know, when you fill up your gas, the CO2 box to make, mark the water. See if that the water level always stands in the same level, or does it rise, or does it go lower? Traditionally, it has to go lower. If you put your gas system on a table and the water level doesn't change, and put another bottle of empty water and you see that changes, reduces, so it must happen to this one. So if it doesn't happen, it means you're producing water. You're producing condition that the water can hold. See if your water level in your box where you're producing the gas and the water level in the box which you're just putting in the room stays the same. And some of you see reduction because it means you haven't created a condition of the H2. We have a beautiful knowledge seekers in island of Sanya in South China Sea. And I've done a lot of work with him. I love working with him. Oh, you say these were not there. I showed him a construction. And I said, now do this and you see. And it took him about a few days to make that construction in the garden, in the, what you call it, on the pathway. And it was there for months, this. And he said, why don't you teach this to everyone? I said, why should I teach? They have to understand to do it. You can produce, we even measured, marked how the level of water in one box moving higher than we put in and the lower. He says, Mr. Keshe, we're making water there. I said, you're not supposed to talk, just observe. I love living in South China Sea in Sanya. It's one of the most beautiful places on this planet. It's gorgeous. And in that process, we've done a lot of work in this part of the world with him. And it's very dear to me. As one of the knowledge seekers, he understands the knowledge of the creation far beyond anyone I know in the Keshe Foundation. He's more or less the same as Alex. And you have to understand the field strength. You have to understand the condition of the accessibility of the fields where you want what to create. If you think you create oxygen, oxygen cannot be on its own in the atmospheric condition. Always leads to creation of water. See how water is squeezed. Does the water it uses? How is your salinity? How does that salinity works? These are all part of what we call understanding of the totality. Okay, Rick, what else?
Okay. Well, for further parts of Dan's question was, how can I use an oxygen GANs? And I think you've answered that somewhat in terms of creating water. Further question, if I have a GANs, how can I identify the emotion, the maggrav position, and the strength of the field?
I don't know. You have to find a way that it suits you.
Then that
One
might
of
be an
the-
answer.
One of the
Answers.
easiest way, one of the easiest way is, if you make such a thing, put glass of another GANs near it and see how that GANs changes. And keep another glass of GANs somewhere else, not in the room, see if that changes the same too or not. Then you understand it. Get angry with your system and see what the color of GANs you get, what it takes and what it gives. Be joyful with it and see what it takes. These are experiences you have to make yourself and learn to see with it.
So that's probably an answer to the next question from Dan. How does my soul use the fields of plasma through emotions?
Speak to it. It tells you.
It's not for you to tell Dan about that. It's for Dan to find out, I guess.
Find out, yeah. As I always say, the color red I see, not the color red you see.
So Dan goes on with another question. If I use alcohol in the CO2 reactor instead of water,
You get the drunken GANs.
then what if I use citric acid?
I don't know. You make it alcoholic one, but you have to test and see what you get.
Sounds like an alcoholic lemonade, perhaps.
It looks like it. Any other question?
Okay, from Hassan. Hassan has got a question about his hands. Mr. Kesh, my question may sound crazy, but I'll give it a try. I play a lot with my hands. I find myself caught in many flows, like spiraling, symmetrical repositioning of the hand, the body, or the head. I find invisible interaction points where my fingers and toes react together. I find myself pinpointing my fingers in precise positions on my body, my head, and often my nose, which makes me breathe like I have never done before. I find myself making strange noises with my mouth and nose, which looks like a blender noise with different speed levels depending on the air intake and rate of breathing. What is the explanation of these interactions? Thank you.
Your body and your field. That's as simple as that. Each position creates different field expansion or interaction. It's simple. Your body is an active plasma. You have more energy in you than a nuclear bomb. Actually, according to the statistics, the body of the man carries 18 Hiroshima bomb in it, which is only magnetic field direction. So if you push it in one, you put a magnet on a table and move it to another place and bring a weaker magnet, stronger magnet, you get different reactions. Now you know your body is a plasma, so there should be no such a question. How do the plasmas, which are creating fields, interact? We done a test some time ago, and it's an amazing test to understand your system. If it works with someone, I used to put the system right against their heart. They felt nothing. It meant the system is not tuned for that. If they tell you they feel something, but if you sit and taking the breath away, you know you got it. It's finally tuned, perfectly tuned. Many of the people we did tests with, we used to do this because the reactors in the past was made totally different way than now. Systematically, you know, somebody calls you and says, Mr. Kesh, this happened to me, and this happened to me. Can you explain? And you say, did you do this and that using the reactors? Say, yes, so that's the consequence of it. Very first reactors we created for trials, many women which gone their menopause 10, 20 years down the line, they got it back and they were shocked. Mr. Kesh, I just got my cycle back. I said, you wanted to be young. You wanted to recover from whatever it is. This is what it does. We enhance the body. And I always used to say to the husband, be careful, grandpa doesn't become a dad. We change the emotion. Now we see it. We see the cycle in many old people that they regenerate because of the intake of foods and other things which they are involved in. And it happens to a few, but if you understand there's a system behind it, you can do it. But do you want to stay that active? Do you want to still creating children at the age of 80, 90, 100? Why not? If the body is there and the physicality to support, why not? You have to find the energies level, somewhere it fits, somewhere it suits. Any other question?
Yes, let me see here. We have a question from Andrew in the YouTube, who's got a nano-coated coil that he put a GANS coating on 2 or 3 years ago, and now the whole system is dry, and he wants to know whether to re-nano-coat the coils or
Why
use
do
them.
you nano-coat? I don't understand why people re-nano-coat something.
Well, he was concerned because you mentioned one time that to nano-coat 2 times to cover any parts that were exposed or still in the matter state, especially with the twisted wire connections of the Maggrav coils.
So that's at the beginning when you do something, not years down the line.
Right, and you would do that before the GANs and amino
before you get
acids.
involved, yeah.
So what if you already coated them with GANs and so on? Can you re-nano-coat the whole thing or put it all in caustic?
You can try. You'll see bits coming off. Some falls off. It's like because the new skin of nano layers grow up, the top might crack and fall, and the rest of it. Yes. But the field now will be composite. It won't be the same field as the first time.
Right, that's what I was just going to say.
You might last time you only got the green ganses, now only get the browns. But I used to use this one because now you create a different field for it.
Those fields will be...
I've been there, I've done that a few times. It happens.
Those fields will be embedded right into the matter level of the material, basically, and just putting it in caustic might pull off all the outer layers, but it's still going to have some of that embedded in it.
A Korean company uses our technology for production of the new nanovolt, and they literally do this. They literally do this. Any other question? You see, you have to understand the science of creation. Then you can make any material for that time and place in the space. And you can always repeat it. I've said this a few times before. When the first I went to SCK, Belgium Nuclear Center, and they wanted to see the liquids I make. That's all they were interested. So I made them 3 different liquids and I gave them a Coca-Cola bottle. They wasted all of it. They said, can you give us some more? They wanted to see if I can replicate. One bottle was a replication of the blood of the man. One was the replication of something else, or was a replication of something else. And they measured it, they felt it, and said, but you produce nuclear radiation in a simple bottle. I said, because I understand it. And then SCK, if you go now today, Belgium Nuclear Center, before you couldn't, if you had any nuclear material from building to building, you had to report. Now, any material with a new technology, room to room, you have to record and report. Because now they realize you can make nuclear plasma-based technology from even water. But they couldn't understand it. How is that? And I think they're so backwards they haven't been started 20 years. But the Iranian scientists spoke this knowledge to understand how to do with it. Shall we call it a day? It's nearly 12:20.
Sure. Yep.
Yep. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for today. Thank you very much for all your support in the past week. We still need your support. We haven't finished yet. And if we hit another problem, I don't want to come back. I prefer to be safe than worried and go back as it happened in the past 48 hours. And I thank the knowledge who's here and know for the rapid response and unconditional. And this is something we live in the same ethos. See you next week, and hopefully we'll have another cycle of understanding the knowledge of the creation. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Okay, very good, Mr. Kesh. Thank you once again for another Knowledge Seekers workshop here. And thank you everybody for attending and for your questions and comments. This has been the 430th Knowledge Seekers workshop on Thursday, April 28th, 2022. I think I'll go out with one of our spaceship videos here. Get that lined up, and you see we have coming up next week. Let me find the date. The One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace, and we will be into May then. It'll be May 3rd, Tuesday, May 3rd. Starting at the 4 p.m. Central European Time. And we look forward to hearing from members of the Universal Council in that meeting. People are welcome to bring their problems to be solved in the sole way that the Universal Council does. Okay, let's go to our last video, and we'll see you all in the next public teaching workshop.